Dalvin Cook was just signed. Breaking news. No one cares.
Oh
Hello,
my
this is
God.
Break Panel Sports. I'm John, joined alongside Joel. Um, you know what? We're just going to keep this thing moving. Okay, the NFL, yes, there's a big week coming up, but it's kind of the calm before the storm, right? This was the setup, right? Last week through the lob, through the final week of the season. Joel, how we doing?
Good. I'm doing all right. I mean,
Yeah.
we got no teams to really root for in these playoffs. I'm not gonna lie to you,
Whoa,
but
whoa, whoa, whoa. The Colts are
I don't.
winning in. You know, the Colts are winning in. They're
Oh,
going to beat Houston.
the Colts fan.
I mean, come on.
I think you're probably the only Colts fan in New Jersey. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I actually have a very good friend that is also a Colts fan in New Jersey.
How?
They're Colts fan from New Jersey. It,
That's insane.
I don't know. There's a lot of them. A lot of people who became fans of the Colts during the Peyton Manning era. Myself, the Andrew Luck era. Watching him ball out at Stanford. My 11-year-old college football degenerate self. And there we were. Didn't want to be a Giants fan. Definitely didn't want to be a Jets fan. So here we are.
Here we are.
And now here the Colts are headed to the playoffs. We're going to talk about them for an hour. No. Joel, do you have any comments about Dalvin Cook going to the Baltimore Ravens?
Who cares? I will say it does kind of remind me. Remember when C.J. Anderson got signed to like the
Yes.
Rams?
Yeah, C.J.
Do you
Anderson,
remember?
Rams era.
I guess it could be something similar to that. That's really it. That's really it. You're not going
C.J.
to see much about
Anderson
it.
to the Panthers. How about that?
Ooh.
That was a time. I don't know. I mean, he's kind of a Keaton Mitchell play style kind of player. We'll see if he can anywhere replicate it. I remember before the season I was saying Dalvin Cook was the missing piece for the Jets in the Super Bowl, and that didn't work out. Maybe he
How many
plays better
carries
with
did
an
he
offensive
have?
line. Not many. Not many. I drafted him a couple dynasty leagues. It didn't go well at all. So
Hmm.
sorry, Dalvin Cook. I trusted you, and it didn't work out. But what are we gonna do? Maybe this all works out, and we probably should have talked more about it. But that doesn't matter because we have bigger things to get to, bigger fish to fry. Okay, and I was trying to think of a joke with this guy's last name, but it just does not work. Okay, Justin Fields. He's
Uh-huh.
a guy. He plays for the Chicago Bears currently, but the Bears happen to, I guess, bring the Panthers back into this. Um, traded the traded their first round pick and DJ Moore to the Chicago Bears and a plethora of other things. And now the Bears are in a situation where they have the number one pick. They can get Caleb Williams, okay, most touted quarterback prospect in forever. Um, the best quarterback of the decade, I guess, at this point, coming out of college. I know we're only 4 years into it, but he's Caleb Williams. You know the name. You know who he is. You know that guy. But they also have a pretty damn good quarterback in Justin Fields, who is kind of going back and forth, had his struggles early this season, has started to really come on strong. They're in a bit of a pickle, bit of a dilemma, bit of a situation. They're stifled.
Oh,
All the
bad.
other things you can think of. It's a very, very difficult situation. To most people, I think it's pretty simple. But Joel, I'm going to ask you first. What do?
You keep Fields.
You
It's very
keep
simple.
Fields. You were going to
I
keep
think I
Justin Fields.
I think you keep him. I mean, you keep him and you trade the number one pick. Do you understand how many teams would benefit from this number one overall pick that are not named the Chicago Bears?
Correct.
Like, I look at the pick. Listen, the pick's going to be Caleb Williams. We could have the discussion about like, oh, his stock is tanking, is this, blah blah blah. He's going number one. Okay, he's gonna go number one. We
Yes.
we could have this dance all until April. He's gonna be the number one pick. But does the Bears need a Caleb Williams? I think Caleb Williams can make your team better, but you already have a guy who you've had for like what the past 2-3 years. Why I don't understand why we're even considering getting rid of him when you got how many wins they have like what 7 wins on the year, and
Just
this is
about.
they're not a good team. The Bears are not a good team, and they have 7 wins. I I'm looking at and also not to mention Justin Fields didn't he miss a couple of games this year?
Yeah, we had Tyson Bagent playing some games this
Tyson
year. I think they
Bagent.
won. They beat the Vikings in one of those.
They,
So just
they won one game.
Justin Fields is not all these wins.
But I mean, that's all I'm saying. This is not a good team. You can't be using Justin Fields as a scapegoat here. You can't be doing that. And not to mention, it'd be one thing if nobody liked him. His wide receiver one loves him. DJ Moore, they love him.
Yes.
Cole Komet, they love him. Like everyone on this team praises Justin Fields. The fans love Justin Fields. You're gonna get rid of him for a guy who is, their stock is kind of iffy. You don't know what's going to happen with him. Caleb Williams, yeah, he's good. We can acknowledge, we see the Patrick Mahomes comparisons every once in a while. Doesn't mean he's going to be anything crazy for your team. Is not. Like the ceiling, I think Caleb Williams' ceiling is higher than Justin Fields, but that doesn't mean he's going to hit. It just doesn't. I say let someone else take the risk with Caleb Williams and just keep the guy you got and use that number one pick that you have. Give it to a team. I don't know, like the Cardinals, I guess. I don't know, maybe the Giants, guys that are looking for potentially to upgrade at the quarterback position. They would give you a king's ransom for that number one pick. You saw Carolina, what they had to give up for the number one pick last year. You think the Bears can't do that?
With
Like
Bryce Young.
they could find a team. They could find a team to make that deal.
So I fully get this side of it, and I don't think either side is the wrong move to me.
No, I don't think so either.
The biggest thing about getting rid of Justin Fields, which to me is a side that I would go down, mostly because I'm one, a huge Caleb Williams guy in terms of him as a prospect. This season, yes, it may lower my expectation just a tad, but it doesn't change the way I view him as a prospect, and he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. I still will stand by that based on pure arm talent, arm angles, everything that he's able to do on a football field. Like you said, higher ceiling, right? So, how big of a gap between the ceiling of Caleb Williams and the ceiling of Justin Fields do you have? That's an important thing I think we need to distinguish. I think mine's a bit higher. I think my difference is a bit higher than yours. I don't know, maybe it's a couple degrees. I don't know how to quantify
I
that
I
kind of
think
gap.
I think the ceiling. Now this may sound crazy, but we're talking about the ceiling here. Okay, I'm not saying
The
he's going to be
ceiling of
this or
Justin
anything.
Fields versus ceiling of Caleb Williams.
I think the ceiling of Justin Fields is like Michael Vick. I think that's
Like
his
that, like
ceiling.
as good as Michael Vick. He
I'm not saying he's
play
going to be
style we
as
could
good as
talk
Michael.
about. Right. I know you're not
Yeah,
saying that. I
I,
know you're saying that's the ceiling. Now,
but yeah, that's
yes.
where I would put. That's where I would put Justin Fields at, as like that's what he could be. And when I'm looking at Caleb Williams, I mean his ceiling is like Patrick Mahomes.
It's Mahomes. Yeah, it's Mahomes.
Yeah, that's his ceiling.
Yeah, I think for Justin Fields, maybe like a Josh Allen, maybe somewhere around that kind of department as well. You can put him in that category. Now, when Justin Fields was coming out of college versus when Caleb Williams was coming out of college, how much closer were they to that floor? Justin Fields was nowhere near that floor, as far as we
No,
know. Caleb, or that ceiling, and Caleb Williams is what a lot of people think he's there, but obviously he still would have to grow. And I think the biggest move here is the fact that when you look at the just financially, the Bears would have to pick up the fifth year option on Justin Fields. If you keep Justin Fields, you are trusting that you are going to have to go ahead and sign him to an extension, right? Or you can draft Caleb Williams, who many would agree has a better ceiling, more potential than Fields. And we've seen Fields have plenty of struggles throughout his career, not just the season, his career, right? So you save a ton of money by not picking up that fifth year option, by drafting what is arguably the best quarterback prospect ever. You take that chance, and it's not much of a chance. It's more of just what's his ceiling, not what's his floor, right? His floor is a mid tier starter in the NFL. I think his floor is like Kyler Murray at this point. So you save money, you get probably a safer option at quarterback, a less volatile option at quarterback, and you have all this money to build out your roster, and you still have another first round pick on top of this. So you can still
right.
build up this roster. You still get DJ Moore. You still have these pieces. You're building a good defense. You address some offensive line issues. You address a lot, but there's a ton of weapons for a rookie quarterback to thrive and succeed. It's not Carolina bad. Carolina has nothing. Any quarterback that goes there is set up to fail. But Chicago is in a position to give a player like Caleb a really good chance of winning. So I would go with saving the money, not risking having to take the fifth year option on Justin Fields and bringing Caleb Williams into the fold. And you can trade Justin Fields to maybe one of the teams we're going to mention, the Jets or the Giants, or somewhere else around the league for at least a second round pick, and you can still build on top of that. So, yes, you would get a king's ransom, but I still think that taking Caleb, the financial aspect of that, is probably better because we've seen like Ricky Williams trade your whole draft to get a guy. You don't hit on really any of those picks. So draft picks are not much, as we want to say they are.
But that's another thing I was wanting to bring up when you're talking about Justin Fields, right? Let's just say they love Caleb Williams, they draft Caleb Williams number 1, right?
Yep.
They do this. What happens with Justin Fields as far as a trade package goes? Because here's my thing. If I'm a team that's looking for a quarterback and I know you want to get rid of Justin Fields, I'm not giving you anything more than like a third round pick. I'm not giving you anything more than that.
That's fine.
And yeah, like I'm just saying, like, if you're willing to move off of Justin Fields, I don't think the price for him would be all that high. I think people are gonna be pretty disappointed as to what he gets traded for, or what he gets or who he gets traded to.
Right. He gets traded
Like,
for a second round pick. I think that's the highest you're going to get for him. And I don't think Chicago
that's
should
the
be.
highest.
I mean, that's pretty good for. I mean, yes, you traded up to get him. You did all this work, but given the situation, given how much of a risk he is, getting a second or third round pick, and you get Caleb Williams, it's not bad. That's not. I don't think anybody's out here expecting the Bears to get a first round pick for Justin Fields, especially because he has 1 year left on his deal. Getting a second for a guy that has 1 year left on his deal, and you have to pick up the fifth year option, and you're probably expecting a team to sign an extension. I think that's a fine deal for the Chicago Bears.
But haven't the Bears been at that point for like the past like 20 years? Just like not picking up. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the quarterbacks haven't been all that great. I understand that. But I feel like Chicago, outside of like Jay Cutler, just give up on a lot of dudes. If you're not the number one guy, they're just gonna get rid of you.
Well, they don't
And
draft guys. They never really do this. They
I
had
know, but like,
Jay Cutler was a signee. He wasn't drafted by Chicago. And
oh
then
no,
after
I'm
that
not.
was Rex Grossman, and we could run through the whole quarterback history of the Chicago Bears. They never really got anybody that was all that. They had the Mike Glennon situation, I believe. They did not really do much when it
But
came
I'm
to.
looking at.
Let's look at every Bears starting quarterback ever. I'll find that list.
Oh my god, I'm looking at Justin Fields right now. As far as talent goes, I think he's one of the. I think he's probably the best quarterback the Bears have seen in like years.
Correct.
So I just don't see how you benefit in getting rid of him to get Caleb Williams, who's to say that you can surround him with the weapons that you were surrounding him with Justin Fields.
Right.
His this play style is widely different from Justin Fields and what they have adapted to in the Chicago Bears. Like what they have done for Justin Fields is going to be far different than when you have Caleb Williams there. I don't think you can guarantee the success with Caleb Williams. Now we've seen flashes with Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields can flourish in Chicago. I think right now you're looking at Justin Fields and you're looking at Chicago Bears connection. I don't think it should be breaking up. I think you can add on to this team, maybe get a Marvin Harrison Jr. with this pick. Now, I'm not saying to keep the number one pick. I'm saying to trade it because I think whoever gets the number one is going to be, drafting him. Maybe you trade a 3. Maybe you trade a Washington. I don't know. Maybe Washington wants to look at Caleb Williams, and you could get a Marvin Harrison Jr. plus additional picks. This helps your team in the long run. And if you're spending the money on a quarterback, so what? All those guys that you just got are still going to be on rookie deals.
Right, those guys you just got, yes, they're going to be on rookie deals, but you can't really sign free agents. You're not going to win just off drafting, right? You have to end up signing other guys to bolster the roster some way, somehow. You're going to have to re-sign, the guys you just traded for, Montez Sweat. You'll have to figure out that money. You'll have to figure
They
out all
already
that
re-signed him, I
money.
thought. Didn't they?
Right. They re-signed him, so then they need the money to help pay that. They traded for
Right.
other defensive players, and they're going to need to re-sign some guys on that end as well. So I think because of that Montez Sweat contract, I'm kind of averse to this right now, because around that time that would be freed up. You'd have to re-sign Caleb Williams, and Montez would be getting a bit older. But Justin Fields, you pick up his fifth year option. You're committed to giving him an extension at some point, and that's I know Justin's not going to ask for much, but Daniel Jones got $40 million. I'm sorry. Justin Fields would probably garner the same kind of number from the Chicago Bears. Are you willing to pay that to Justin Fields right now? That's where you kind of have to draw the line, right? So you get a number one pick quarterback. You don't worry about the contract. Yes, I know. Again, I love everything about what Justin Fields has meant to Chicago, what he's been, and all of that. But how long did the Chicago Bears hold on to Mitchell Trubisky? And it was always maybe next year is the year he's going to figure it out. Maybe next year's the year he's going to figure it out. and he never figured it out. We've seen flashes from Justin Fields at the end of the season, and we know his talent. We know he's really good. We know that he's a good quarterback, but I think it goes both ways. I don't think you're wrong. I think it's a great idea. If you can make all these moves, you can get a bunch of first round picks, you can make it happen. You can get Marvin Harrison, you can get Cooper DeJean if you want to. You can figure it out. There's also just a can't miss prospect on the board that you don't want other teams having. That's Caleb.
Right.
So I think either way, you're making the right decision and the wrong decision at the same time. It's a very strange one to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no. I was waiting for you to finish. I didn't know if you were done.
I was done.
But I understand the move to acquire Caleb Williams. I mean, like we said, he's gonna be the number one pick. He's a can't miss prospect. I think he is.
Yeah.
But like I said before, I'm just looking at the potential of like a package of what you can get for this team that is not all that great. I don't see how getting Caleb Williams means, oh, we're going to the playoffs next year. I just don't see how
that's not the plan. Happen. That's not the plan. That wouldn't be the idea. Would it be, oh, Caleb Williams? That's the weird thing, right? Because by taking Caleb Williams, you're making the move that doesn't make your team better next year, right? Keeping Justin Fields and getting more players and getting better assets, your team is better next year. But in 4 years, when Caleb Williams could be a top 5 quarterback on the Washington Commanders, I think maybe you would see a lot of people saying, wow, why did we trade that pick? Why did that happen? But also, if Justin Fields goes somewhere else and becomes a superstar, it's the same exact scenario. The thing is, one scenario you save a ton of money. The other one, you potentially get yourself in a Daniel Jones situation where you're stuck with a contract, potentially, and you'd probably draw it up so you get out of it quickly like the Giants can. So I think keeping Justin Fields makes the Bears better next year. But taking Caleb Williams makes the Bears better 4 years from now, as they keep having to develop this roster, because they're not in a position where there's no path, right, where they can make moves this year and win a Super Bowl next year. They can make the playoffs. Detroit's going to be good. The Packers are probably going to get a bit better. Who knows what the Vikings do quarterback-wise. So Chicago, I think, right, it's weird because also getting the picks from Caleb Williams and the number 1 pick also makes you better in 4 years. But again, there's no guarantee that draft picks later are going to turn to stars past that as well. We've seen a lot of draft busts. We've also seen a lot of number 1 picks at quarterback stink. So I think it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm still going with the Camus prospect because I like Caleb, but it's going to be a long discussion in that draft war room as to what do you do, right? Because some guys are going to love Caleb, some guys are going to hate Caleb. Just the way it is.
That's the question. That's the question for a lot of teams as well. Like when we're talking about Justin Fields, especially, what I wanted to bring up was who do you trade Justin? Who wants Justin Fields?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who has enough assets to trade for a Caleb Williams? I know we said we were going to bring up the Jets and the Giants and how they get involved in this sort of thing, but I'm looking at the Giants and I'm also looking at the Jets. First of all, the Jets, I don't think they make that sort of move only because I think they're keeping Aaron Rodgers at least for another maybe even 2 years. Yeah, right?
He's supposed to play 2 years.
But you look at the Giants, I just don't see how they have enough. There's a lot of teams out there. I want to see the teams that have multiple first-round picks because that's what I would ask for if I'm Ryan Poles.
You'd ask for a first-round pick.
I'm asking for multiple. Oh, not for Justin Fields. I'm talking about for the number 1 pick.
Trading up. So you're talking about trading up for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, yes.
And in that scenario, sorry, I hit my mic. In that scenario, we're talking about trading for the number 1 pick. I want multiple firsts. I want at least I want 1 this year, I want next year. We've talked about. I think we mentioned in one of our dynasty leagues, you said if you had the number 1 pick, you would have to give up 5 first-round picks, and you probably still wouldn't trade the number 1 pick.
It would still be a debate. Yeah,
it would still be a debate.
Right.
But as far as what I'm looking at for other teams, I just don't know if anyone necessarily has enough.
That's the problem.
That doesn't completely gut your team, and you end up like the Panthers this year.
Now, do the Cardinals say, what if Chicago? I'm just looking at the draft order. Chicago does a scenario where we say we don't want either of these guys. I love Kyler Murray. Arizona, give me a bunch of picks and Kyler, and we'll call it a day for the number one pick, and we'll give you Justin Fields, and you get a whole package. They could do that. It would be stupid. Or they trade Justin Fields to whoever. That's probably not going to happen. It's not realistic, right? Tennessee, they need a quarterback. Oh no, they don't. They have Will Levis. The Chargers are at 6. They have Herbert. So it's really just those 2 and 3, the Washington-New England duo, right? So, but the thing is also trading up one spot means yes, you get the number 2 overall pick. Let's say you pick Marvin Harrison and he becomes the highest drafted receiver of all time. Whatever. Let's say you pick him, you get a receiver. That's cool, but you're not going to get the draft haul that you would get from let's say another team down the list. Let's say Denver wants to give up a king's ransom. Oh, wait, they already gave all their picks to Seattle, right? Maybe Seattle wants to go get Caleb Williams. There's a lot of teams that could go do it. Seattle trading up from 15 and trading a lot of the picks that they got in the Russell Wilson haul. And I believe the Jamal Adams haul is done. They could do that. I could see Seattle making this move to go up to number 1 because I don't think Chicago wants the Washington trade. They want a team. They would want a team that's down the list, that's maybe later in the first round, that loves Caleb Williams, right? A Pittsburgh, a Tampa Bay, right? A team like that. I don't see Washington or New England making this move unless if they decide to overpay. And I don't think they will because Drake May is going to be on the board. Michael Penix is going to be on the board. Jaden Daniels. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this class. It's not like Caleb is this. He's a commodity, but he's not the only, I guess, can't miss prospect. There's a couple guys that you can argue are can't miss quarterbacks. That would be the number 1 quarterback in most other classes. So it's a weird draft for Caleb. Let's say he stays at USC. Who knows? I don't think he will. He's going to come out this year. He's going to be number 1 pick. But
I think whatever the package would be for Caleb Williams, for that number 1 pick, Chicago's packaging that number 1 pick with Justin Fields. I don't see 2 separate trades happening at all.
Well, there would be no point. There'd be no point because if I'm trading up to number 1, why would I take Justin Fields? I don't want him on my roster because I'm taking Caleb.
See, but then the Bears would have to do 2 separate deals, right? So you would trade.
Well, they trade the number 1 pick. They're keeping Justin Fields. That's the whole scenario.
Well, I know, but like you said, it's a loaded draft class. Who's to say if they trade from like 1 to 2?
Right, Chicago could do both. Yeah, that's. I don't think people were talking about that. I don't think they would. Maybe they love Drake May in Chicago.
Yeah,
maybe they love
like
him.
Michael Penix.
Maybe they love Michael. I can't tell you whether they do or not. It's a very interesting scenario. You know what? I hadn't really thought about this before we hopped on here. To be honest with you, this isn't something we prepare. This part of it, but right, you look at a team. I was saying to you before the show, Atlanta. I think Atlanta would be a team to get Justin Fields. They could take both on. I don't know.
Why not?
That you could let Justin, if you want Caleb, if you want Caleb to sit for a year, which I don't think you would, but let's say you would. I like when quarterbacks sit. You have Justin Fields play the year out, and maybe, he wouldn't have any trade value, though. That's the problem, right? You let Justin Fields play for a whole year for the Atlanta Falcons. You have Caleb Williams on your bench. Can you get a 5th-year option? And then, because when you take a 5th-year option, you're basically dedicated to signing that player. So I don't see them going to the same team because of it. If they did this a year earlier, you could maybe do this. But I think, if anything, they're doing one or the other. It's possible that a team would want to take this on, but if anything, there's 2 separate trades happening if you're getting rid of both of these quarterbacks.
I think there's a good amount of teams that can make the move. Yeah. It's who wants to make that move, who wants to actually take that, because I think there are a lot of teams out there. I think all the teams that are in contention to be trading for this number 1 pick has their own quarterback problems of their own. You look at the Giants, right? Let's just say they're like, oh my God, we love Caleb Williams. Let's trade from, I think they're at 5 right now.
Yeah,
let's trade the number 1, right? Daniel Jones, what happens with him? What's going to happen with him? Yeah. If the Jets are the ones that are saying, you know what, let's trade from, I think they're at 7 or something like that.
They're at 8 right now. Yeah.
They're at 8. yeah, 8-1. What's Aaron Rodgers thinking about this? What are we gonna do with Zach Wilson? Do we just cut him? Like, what
Oh,
do we
he's gone.
do?
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Like Washington, what do we do with Sam Howell? He led the league. He led the league in passing yards for like the first like 14 weeks of the year. Like, I'm
Right.
not saying he's great, but he wasn't bad either. What do we do with him? We
They're
can't
four and
just
12.
yeah, but a lot of that is because the team's terrible. But
No,
anyway,
you're right. No, you're right.
all I'm
But
saying,
but teams have logic of my record is bad. I must change my quarterback, and not my line or anything. So
not my head coach.
you're right. Not my head coach. Nothing. Well, I think Ron's probably gone too.
Oh, yeah, he's
Um,
gone.
the big part with Chicago is we'll be able to know what they're going to do before they do it. So if they keep Matt Eberflus, whether
Oh,
you
they
think
are.
he should or not. So they keep him, right? Let's say they keep
Yeah,
him.
I no, like I think it was announced like they're not gonna fire him.
Then they're probably going to keep Justin Fields because he's kind of a hot seat coach. You don't bring the number one quarterback in the draft into a hot seat situation. Teams have done it before, and it's failed miserably. But we've seen enough for teams to learn, hey, if you're going to get a new quarterback, either have a proven head coach already or get a head coach that's going to have an offense that this guy likes, that they'll get a guy similar to USC style of offense, maybe grab a coordinator from there or something, or a Pac-12 guy or an air raid guy, whatever. But because you keep Matt Eberflus, that to me that means that you want to continue to garner the relationship between Justin Fields and the head coach, because Fields has had 3 offensive coordinators, three head coaches, and all that. He's seen a lot of turmoil, and we've seen quarterbacks go through that turmoil and recover. Justin Fields could be one of those guys, and he already has become one of those guys. And him and his offensive coordinator have gotten pretty well. So Chicago could just say, "Hey, I want to keep this going. We have no reason to fire a head coach, and we want to keep that moving." So if they keep Eberflus, I think that's a telltale sign. I don't know if you agree with that. Like if you think that they can still do this with Eberflus in, but I think that means that they're keeping Justin Fields.
No, I agree. I because one of the other things that I was looking at, despite what everyone thinks Caleb Williams will be, is still going to be a rookie quarterback.
Yes.
It's another rookie quarterback that you got to deal with, that you got to have to build chemistry with. He's going to have to learn a whole new playbook. We're going to have to figure out. We may have to make a whole new playbook to determine what he can do that Justin Fields couldn't do, that Justin Fields could do that now Caleb Williams can do. It's a whole. You're changing everything, and there's some guys that may be on this team saying, you know what, this is too much for me. I don't want to be in this situation right now. I want to go somewhere else.
They could. I mean, it's a whole convoluted issue, Joel. It's what we do around here. Okay. I think we need to pick one team right now. If you could pick a team right now that's going to trade up for this number one pick, and a team that's going to trade for Justin Fields, if that's a scenario, right? Let's take both scenarios. We'll start with the Caleb Williams trade. Let's say the Chicago Bears announce we're going to keep Justin Fields. We are trading the number one overall pick, and they're going to get this done. What team, if you had to pick it right now, push all the chips to the table, which team is going to go out and get that done?
I think it's between Washington and the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's between those two. I think when I look, Washington right now has the number 2 pick. I believe they're number 2.
Yes, at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen after this week goes down, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. But, first of all, if I'm Chicago and I just have the number 1 pick, I'm not discussing a trade with anyone else except for teams that are within the top 3. Because if I'm trading down, I'm not trading down from 1 to 28 or 20. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but you have 10.
I want 2 and 10.
True.
I want both. I want both. Like that's my thing. It's like, why not? I want all the picks. I want the highest pick that I could possibly get. I'm not discussing another trade like that. I'm just not. Yeah. Not.
And you also want to trade to a team that's also going to be bad next year and the year after. Even with
you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry. Like if Caleb Williams goes to Washington, you don't have to worry about Washington. Who cares?
Yeah, they're still going to stink.
Who cares? Fine. Like they want him so badly, they think he's going to turn them around. Fine, go ahead. If they end up, I was mentioning Minnesota only because I think Minnesota is probably the best fit for Caleb Williams. I think that's the best fit for him.
Oh,
I'm looking at Justin Jefferson. I'm looking at Jordan Addison. I think that's a great fit for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And I think the Vikings, especially, I would put all my chips in on getting him, right? I would 100% do that. I don't know exactly where the Vikings stand as far as like their draft pick
Oh,
goes.
they sit at
Do
12
you,
right now. You got a few 7 and 9 teams in there, so they could move up to 11, maybe over Chicago with 10.
I think they could definitely do that. I don't think it would be an issue. I think the Bears last year, didn't they trade from like 10-1 to get to no
Yeah,
no that's right.
it's not
The
right. It wasn't.
Panthers, my fault.
Yeah, it's not an absurd distance. I think Minnesota might be in a position where they can get a Michael Penix, they can get a Jaden Daniels, but obviously Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. It just depends how much draft assets they're willing to give up to move up to number one. But it depends. Hey, what do you think the gap between Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. is? Right? What do you especially after
Yeah.
watching? I think it's fairly. I think it's fair, and age is also a factor. But I think any quarterback with Kevin O'Connell is going to do just fine. I got to pick a different team, I guess. I like New England and I like Las Vegas to maybe make a move to go out and get them. Obviously, New England, they're probably going to move on from Belichick. We'll see where that all goes, but I'm sure that the apple won't fall too far from the tree and they'll figure out a head coach in that Belichick tree that'll be just fine. Vegas, their quarterback situation's a mess, but they still had a pretty okay season. You give a guy like Coach Pierce, Caleb Williams, kind of harden him up a little bit, and they could figure something out. They could really get things going. Joel, I think if Justin Fields is traded as well, I mean, I'm saying Atlanta. I'm very much saying Atlanta. Forget the Jets and the Giants. I'm saying those old Falcons, the Dirty Birds. They need a quarterback. They need a guy that can move around. They need a guy that can play with Bijan and Kyle Pitts. And I think Justin Fields is a pretty good way of getting to that. And they probably have the capital to do it. They could get it done. They already have number 9, and Chicago would have back-to-back picks. And drafts love back-to-back picks. They're fun. So I'm going Atlanta for Justin Fields if he gets traded.
I will stick around the same division. I think Tampa Bay would probably be the place.
I like it. Yeah.
I would say Tampa Bay only because like if Baker Mayfield gets it back from now, I personally think they should keep Baker.
That's their plan. The plan is to keep Baker. So I don't know if this is going to happen.
The plan is to keep Baker.
Let's say they have a pivot. Let's say they lose to Carolina.
Right. And then all of a sudden it's like, we don't know necessarily if Baker's the guy anymore. We don't know blah blah blah. We don't know this. We don't know that. And then all of a sudden, Chicago's willing to move on from Justin Fields, and we don't got to pay all that much. Like we don't have to get rid of all that much.
Right.
Why not go after him? We've been wanting a mobile quarterback ever since the Jameis Winston days. We've been wanting a mobile quarterback. Our wide receivers are just getting older. Why not get more of a running game going on? Even Rashad White, our number 1 running back, wasn't that much of a runner. He was averaging like 3.5 yards a carry. He wasn't. He has receiving wise, they're great. Running wise, it's non-existent. I think he elevates that running game for them. So when you're looking at the fit, when you're looking at the assets to give up, I think Tampa Bay has that. I think Tampa Bay would want that, and I think Justin Fields would want that as well. You still get your weapons, Yeah,
you get the weapons. So, Joel, we can sit here and speculate all we want, and all of this is just conjecture and theory, and Rene Descartes would be proud of me right now. Hate that man. But at the end of the day, one thing is going to happen, and one thing will not happen. There's no universe where both of these quarterbacks stay with the Bears. There's no universe, or maybe there is, who knows. But there's no universe where both scenarios happen, is what I'm trying to say. So, Joel, not what do you want, not what would you do? Okay. What do you think is going to happen? What will the Chicago Bears do with this situation?
If I had to make the bold prediction right now, I would say that they trade Justin Fields to the Minnesota Vikings.
They wouldn't trade in division, Joel? Not in the division?
Yes. I think they trade within the division. They trade within the division.
You can't do that.
Yes, you can.
Not Justin
That's happened
Fields.
plenty of times before. That's happened plenty of times before.
That was starting quarterbacks.
Sure.
You could trade Justin. Imagine, so you trade Justin Fields to the Minnesota Vikings. And
I'm not saying I would do that.
And
I'm not saying I would do that.
No, I'm saying why would Chicago do this? They trade.
I think Chicago would do this.
I don't think there's a prayer. So let's say you trade Justin Fields to the Vikings, and he becomes 10-year vet. He's a franchise QB. You just signed your death note for no reason.
Yeah.
Why?
Plenty of guys within the division goes within the division.
Trading Caleb, I get. Trading the number 1 because you get all their picks, and you have 2 chances to make your pick better every year. But where is your logic behind Minnesota?
I look at Minnesota and I see them as the best fit for them. I
No,
think
yes, he's the
Minnesota.
best fit. Yes, he's
No,
the
no, no.
best fit. Yes.
I say Minnesota right now. They would give up probably the highest package for him.
A first, maybe? They want to give up 12.
I'm not saying they
They,
give up 12. I'm saying they could possibly give up multiple seconds. They could give up multiple thirds. I think they would do that. And I think Chicago would be stupid to decline that deal.
if they offer it, yes. If you offer me 2 second-round picks, I guess. But they have 12. They can pick Michael Penix. They can pick any of these
You
other
could also pick someone
quarterbacks.
to help their defense, to help the
They
offensive
could do
line, to
that
help
too.
anywhere else.
They can do that too. But I don't see it. However, if that happens, I will still be very upset. And if you're right, you're right. And I will give you all the credit in the world for being the first one to get on it. How about that?
How about that?
If I had to push all my chips at the table, what are they going to do? What's going to happen? I'm trying to. Well, no, I'm going to go for a similar route. I think Caleb Williams is the next franchise quarterback of the Chicago Bears, as you were thinking is going to happen. And I do think Justin Fields gets traded to Atlanta. I'm not saying the 9, but I think Atlanta is the destination. It's, to me, the best fit once they fire Arthur Smith. It's probably going to be the best fit for Justin in terms of who's on that team. Obviously, like you could say, oh, yeah, the 49ers would be a better fit. Yeah, no, duh. But out of the teams that I think would trade for him, and I have to make a prediction, I would go with Atlanta. The weapons are there. They're going to keep adding weapons. Maybe they'll even add one at 9 again because they're dumb. But they're a good, they're a growing team. I almost call them good. But they have a chance to make the playoffs this year. It's not a bad team. It's not a bad situation. It's a team that has talent, and they're probably a quarterback away. You put a lot of quarterbacks on that team, they're a playoff team already. They're over the Bucks right now. They've had Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke for the entire year. Justin Fields makes that team exponentially better, and to be a team that would win the NFC South just about every year. So I'm going with Atlanta. They're going to give up. I think they are more desperate to get Justin Fields than Minnesota would be to go get Justin Fields. And to me, I think Atlanta gives you the best package. So we're going to go with the Falcons, Joel. You hate it. I know you don't like the Falcons.
I don't like the Falcons. I'm gonna be honest with you.
You are not a fan of Atlanta.
I just don't care for the Falcons, really. Like if they were to keep Desmond Ridder as their quarterback for the next 5 years, I don't think I would notice. I
They will
just
not.
I don't think I would notice at all.
I mean, the Giants don't play the Falcons as much as you'd probably want to, right? So
That's another thing too. Yeah,
yeah, you don't watch enough Falcons ball to really appreciate.
Falcons. I mean, no, they got Jesse Bates. I watched them. They're
You watch a
cool.
little Jesse Bates, actually. You watch a little Jesse Bates. No, but nobody wants to watch Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder. Either way, the Falcons have to do something different with their quarterback situation. I think Justin Fields gets traded for a decent package to Atlanta. You think he's going in the division to Minnesota?
Yes.
I will let the break panel sports listeners take a second and acknowledge what Joel just said.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Minnesota for Justin Fields. Buy the jerseys now. Let's order them. Let's go.
Let's
number
go.
ones. Let's get some number ones in there. How about that? But that'll do it. Unless if Joel, you have anything else left to add here for this episode of Break Panel Sports. Joel, do you have? You can shake your head, nod your head. I know we're not. Okay, you got something.
Skull. There you
That's
go.
all he's got. He's got skull. We're gonna do the clap. I don't know if you heard that on my mic. Yeah, skull. Why not? Justin Fields in a Vikings jersey is terrifying to me. But that'll do it for this episode of Break Panel Sports. I've been John, joined alongside Joel. We got a little bit of draft talk today, a little bit of Chicago Bears talk. Never been to Chicago, but maybe one day. Yeah, Justin Fields is going to Atlanta, according to me. They will pick Caleb Williams, and according to Joel, Justin Fields is getting traded to the Minnesota Vikings. But thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Taking the time out of your day, evening, night, morning, brunch time, listen. Whatever you just did to listen to this episode of Break Panel Sports, I appreciate it so much. We appreciate it so much. But we will see you another time.
Goodbye.